Oh, hello there. I didn't see you come and forgive me. You caught me in the act. Welcome back to the Ultimate Fashion History with me, Amanda Halley, queen of the cheesy intros, for this year's holiday special. You know what? Nothing is more Christmassy to me than sitting in front of the fire, the lights from the Christmas tree glistening, a few yummy treats and drinks to enjoy, and just snuggling up with a golden age murder mystery. I genuinely think that's cozy, especially if the mystery is British, stars one of my most favorite detectives, and is set in a posh country house somewhere that's snowed in and fabulous and chic 1930s people are walking around getting murdered. I love it, and it's all proven the inspiration to this year's holiday special. Now, before we start, just to remind you, I don't do comments here, but I will leave my contact details, or better yet, join the Ultimate Fashion History Facebook group. We always have loads of fun over there, and so far, nobody's murdered each other. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I had a blast putting it together, so come with me as I invite you to Christmas with Agatha Christie. Now, before we start, let me just make it clear that although I am a huge Agatha Christie fan, I'm not a Christie scholar, although when I was 15 I probably was. Goodness, I was immersed in Agatha Christie in my teens, so this is all just for festive fun. And yet I still have the nerve to build this as the ultimate guide to Christmas with Agatha Christie, featuring her most festive books, their film and TV adaptations, holiday recipes inspired by the books, fashion, of course, lots of fashion, gift ideas, entertaining, and when I say entertaining, I mean only with your close family or friends who have been in your little bubble all year. Safety first, always. Everything I could think of, basically. And because this year has been pretty tough on a lot of us financially, what with COVID, all of my ideas, well, most of them, are budget friendly. And wow, did I have fun putting this together, because British murder mysteries from the golden age of crime fiction quite literally pay the mortgage around here. Because my husband runs the publishing company Dean Street Press, and one of his many missions is to republish the lost masterpieces of British crime fiction from the 1920s and beyond. Dean Street Press literally has hundreds of titles of Golden Age English crime fiction, all from Agatha's era, and all available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in case any of you are like me and just can't get enough of vintage whodunits. We have quite a few titles set at Christmas and the New Year too. I'll leave links to those as well. But Agatha, of course, was the queen of crime fiction, and I got the idea for this year's UFH holiday special because we recently reread Dame Agatha's brilliant autobiography, in which she writes with absolute delight about her favourite holiday, Christmas, her fondness for the season born of the Christmases she so loved in her childhood. To young Agatha, Christmas was everything, and this is how she begins her description of her childhood Christmases. Christmas was the supreme festival, something never to be forgotten. And I love this idea of Christmas or the holiday season, no matter what you are celebrating, being 2020's supreme festival, as we've had a tough year, haven't we? So let's see it out in a grand style that Dame Agatha would approve of. And of course, on December 18th, Kenneth Branagh's new movie version of Death on the Nile is debuting. I'm keeping an open mind. Of course I will see it. I wasn't in love with his murder on the Orient Express, but I'm going to keep an open mind, even though I loved the 1978 version so much. It's one of my favorite movies. In fact, I even did an episode of FAVE Film Fashion on it. I'll leave a link in case you didn't catch it. So whether your ideal holiday season would be in the grand style of an English country house, a very Poirot type of Christmas, n'est-ce pas? A cosy country cottage Christmas, the kind Miss Marple probably enjoyed. Perhaps you're spending a relaxing Christmas home alone, as Hercule Poirot hoped to do so often. The Ultimate Fashion History Christmas with Agatha Christie will hopefully give you some ideas on how to Christie up your Christmas. Everything drawn from Agatha's own words, the books, films, TV shows, and/or the golden age of crime fiction. Agatha Christie grew up in South Devon in the West Country of England in a seaside town called Torquay, and there it is, which is only about 20 miles from where I grew up, near Dartmouth in Devon, so this part of the world we both knew very well. And, again like me, Agatha Christie had an English mother and an American father, whom she adored, and here she is with Dad, and who undoubtedly brought American Christmas traditions into the family, and blended them with traditional British holiday traditions, just as my dad did when I was growing up. For example, the eating of turkey on Christmas Day. Now, food historians maintain that turkey only became a popular Christmas dinner item in the 1950s because of the mass production of the bird, and it was only in the 1930s, because of Wallace Simpson's influence on Edward VIII, that turkey for Christmas dinner became fashionable to the British upper crust. So clearly, the turkeys that Agatha enjoyed on Christmas Day were introduced by her father, bringing his American Christmases into their lovely British home. And Christmas at Agatha's childhood homes were spectacular affairs. Christmas stockings in the morning, then at breakfast, everyone's chair piled with presents, more presents throughout the day, tons and tons of chocolate and treats, but of course, it was the Christmas dinner itself that was the main event of the day, with umpteen courses, and little Agatha would stuff herself with chocolate, and she remarked in her autobiography that people must have had stronger stomachs back then, because she never felt sick no matter how much rich, delicious food she ate. But what initially puzzled me was when Agatha wrote that they had two kinds of turkey for Christmas dinner, roasted and boiled. Boiled? I was confused, and then I dug a little deeper, figured it all out, and in a few minutes I will share with you my ultimate turkey dinner hack, inspired by Agatha Christie. And these cozy country Christmases of Agatha's childhood bring me to the first seasonal story and TV adaptation I'd like to discuss, The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding. It's a short story in a collection, and it's really fun and cozy, and for the television series Poirot, it's called The Theft of the Royal Ruby, and I think it's a wonderful episode to kick off your Christie Christmas viewing, as it's so very cheery. Hercule, played by Sir David Suchet, the lovely Sir David Suchet, and in my opinion, the only Poirot, is all set to spend a relaxing Christmas by himself, and we see him buying a demi-kilo of his favourite Belgian chocolate. But as so often happens, he doesn't get to spend his perfect solitary Christmas with his chocolates and his wireless, as he's called to the country to investigate crime, and spends the holidays with a really nice, friendly and fun family. The episode is so Christmassy, full of everything you hope to see in a Poirot Christmas episode. Hercule Poirot even demonstrates the proper way to cut a mango, something I didn't know how to do until I saw this episode for the first time. He even gets to stir the Christmas pudding for good luck. And of course, given the original title, there's a big plot twist during Christmas dinner, which brings me to my Agatha-inspired turkey dinner hack. Remember when I was confused when she talked about boiled turkey? Well, really, there's no mystery there, because of course she was talking about poached turkey. So I'm guessing her family had a roasted turkey and a poached turkey, although I don't think that poached turkey legs, no crispiness there, would appeal to our modern tastes, do you? Which brings me to my turkey hack, and it really has revolutionized my own turkey dinners. I simply poach a turkey breast in chicken stock with garlic and tarragon and seasonal herbs. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour and it comes out perfect every time. No endless basting, no stress, no fear of drying out. This baby is moist. And I know that there are some out there who might think that without the whole cooked bird on a platter, you don't get that spectacular presentation. But when sliced on a bed of herbs with cranberries or oranges, it looks lovely. But what about people who love the dark meat and all that crispy skin? Well, roast the legs separately. That's what I'm doing now. It's so easy, and I'm sure a lot of you already do this when you cook a turkey dinner, right? Anyway, it's really in keeping with Agatha Christie's Turkey Two Ways, right? And best of all, the stock you cook the turkey breast in is now all warm and aromatic and tasty, and I use it to make my stuffing. And yes, I just use stovetop, but I zhuzh it up with chestnuts and cranberries, and that stock, which now has some of the turkey fat in it, I use with my gravy. And yes, I just use good old British Bisto granules. A British Christmas dinner must, and I mean must, have roast potatoes, and Jamie Oliver's recipe is foolproof. I will leave a link, lovely jubbly, the best roast potatoes I have ever made. In Britain, we don't generally have mashed potatoes with a turkey dinner. That's more of an American thing, although I dare say lots of English people do it now. And then I kick it old school with simply boiled Brussels sprouts. But I do roast my parsnips and my turnips. And even though Yorkshire puds aren't really part of a Christmas dinner, let's throw some in, just to be British. And then you can add whatever other veggies you like. And we really have a wonderful and very easy Christmas dinner here. The stress has gone. The stress has gone. That boiled turkey breast makes all the difference. Now, of course, and in keeping with the book, the meal should conclude with a blazing Christmas pudding, like Agatha Christie herself enjoyed as a child and beyond. And if you don't live in the UK or haven't made your own, you can buy a traditional Christmas pudding in the British section of almost every grocery store. But the problem is not everybody likes Christmas pudding. I actually kind of hate it. However, I found this wonderful alternative recipe online for a cookie and chocolate refrigerator Christmas pudding. It's got the look with a taste that might appeal to people who don't like the taste of a zillion weird dried fruits seeped in booze. But wait, Agatha didn't only finish her childhood Christmas dinners with plum pudding. They'd finish it off with a massive trifle full of cream and custard and 6-penny coins, all of which culminate into a bit of a nightmare for me, as I don't like fruit, I don't like custard, I don't like cream, and I certainly don't like food with loose change thrown into it. But each to their own, and here is a far more, I think, grown-up and for me less gross alternative. I found a fabulous decadent recipe online for dark chocolate and black cherry trifle. I think it's by Nigella Lawson. I'll leave a link if I haven't eaten it first. And let's throw some chocolate coins on top to pay homage to Christie's 6-penny bits. And let's bill it as Tommy and Tuppence trifle. I think it's just as thrilling and sophisticated as that sleuthing couple. And if you really want to theme your Christmas dinner around Dame Agatha, instead of standard name holders, how about buying a selection of second-hand Agatha Christie paperbacks, tie them with red ribbon and add a name tag. That way everybody knows where to sit and they get a little stocking stuffer to take home. Speaking of home, another Christie Christmas story where poor Poirot is hauled into somebody else's Christmas is this one. Hercule Poirot's Christmas. It's a fabulous page-turning novel, but I also highly recommend the television adaptation, part of the Poirot series with our lovely Sir David. It begins in bustling Christmassy London, and Hercule is full of Christmas cheer and looking forward to spending a quiet Christmas with his chocolates, his wireless, but then disaster strikes. His central heating breaks down, and he's forced to take a commission at a big country house, so that at least he'll be warm. The episode is full of everything you would want from a Christmas story. Choir boys singing carols, wintry country churches, snowy little English villages with everybody bustling about, and we even see Hercule doing a bit of Christmas shopping. As I mentioned, Poirot spends the holidays at a grand country estate. In the series, it was filmed here at Chilham Castle in Kent. And isn't this just the sort of grand aristocratic setting we associate with Hercule? And of course, the family he stays with, while perhaps not the nicest family, are terribly chic and sophisticated, which brings me to my next Christmas with Agatha Christie entertainment idea. A sophisticated 1930s cocktail party, now obviously this year only for people in your own household. And for the rest of us, let's put this party on ice until after the vaccine, when we are all safe again. But I want to tell you about it anyway, because these sort of upper-class gatherings appear so constantly in Christie's oeuvre. And let's do this right and start with our invitations. Whether we mail them or send them via email, I always think that invitations sort of set the mood for a party or a gathering. And for this one, why not take inspiration from a vintage Agatha Christie dust jacket, like this one from Peril at End House. Then, in PowerPoint or InDesign or Photoshop, whatever you're the most comfortable with, design your own invitation based on the cover, like I did here. Food and drink, well, I love it in movies from the 30s when you see people carrying trays heaped with all sorts of different cocktails, and guests just grab what they fancy, and so I think we could do the same. Choose 3 or 4 cocktails, one should be a classic martini at least if I'm invited, and just let people at 'em. And for eats, canapes. I live for canapes. Yes, they're fiddly to make, but you can make them in advance, and put them in a Tupperware in the fridge until showtime. You can do that 2 days in advance. They will keep. So chic and a real departure from chip and 4-layer dip. Imagine Poirot faced with 4-layer dip. No, my good Hastings. But what if you have children at your sophisticated gathering, children or people who simply don't drink, like Dame Agatha herself, who never liked the taste of alcohol and so she never drank it? Well, let's take inspiration from another character who appears only passingly in the books, but brought beautifully to life in the Poirot series by actress Pauline Moran. So let's let Miss Lemon come to the rescue, as she so often does with Miss Lemon-Aide. See what I did with the spelling there? This is a beautiful drink that is basically a Brazilian lemonade. But in Brazil, they make lemonade with limes and condensed milk, and you can zhuzh it up a little bit with Christmas ribbons and candy canes. And what I love about this drink, which is very tried and tested in my family, is that it's got a lovely creaminess to it. And we all know how much Dame Agatha loved her cream. But what are you going to wear to this sophisticated 30s cocktail party? Well, I've recently discovered ASOS and their range called ASOS Design, with these beautiful, slinky and very 1930s looking maxi gowns and tea dresses. I've actually bought a couple of them, and they're beautifully made and at such a reasonable price point, between $70 and $150, even cheaper when on sale. I bought the green one here on the right, and it's one of my favorite dresses now. And to make this all the more 1930s, how about adding a faux fur stole? Like these, a deco-style brooch, or let's get even fancier and wear a fascinator. It's the holidays. Let's get carried away. And these ASOS gowns look great on us older ladies too. Absolutely terrific. And again, it's the holidays, so let's dress them up with fascinators and faux fur stoles. And for my boys out there, well, black tie might be a little too formal for today, so how about investing in a smoking jacket? They come at all different price points, and if they're good enough for the immaculate Monsieur Poirot, then I think you will be the beau of the ball in your elegant smoking jacket. Mais oui, but what about party games? Well, what could be more on theme for an Agatha-inspired gathering in your bubble than a murder mystery game? And there's a terrific site called mysteryparty.com that has downloadable whodunit games for all ages. I'll leave a link. So far, we've been focused on our little Belgian friend, but what about that lovely little old lady with the twinkling blue eyes and a mind as sharp as one of her knitting needles? Miss Marple has her own story set at the holidays, and the first we'll be looking at is the 450 from Paddington, retitled for the American market as What Mrs. McGillicuddy Saw. Adapted in 1961 as Murder, She Said, and starring the inimitable Margaret Rutherford as Jane Marple, here's a fun fact. The movie featured Joan Hickson, who, decades later, of course, would claim the role of Miss Marple on television. And when the series was rebooted, Miss Hickson left very big shoes to fill. Such was her wonderful embrace of the spirited spinster of St. Mary Mead. More recently, the 450 from Paddington was adapted for the Marple series and starred Geraldine McEwen as a deliciously twinkly Miss Marple, and Amanda Holden, looking very stylish in her 1950s garb, as her accomplice who goes undercover as a housekeeper in a big country estate where something is afoot. Which brings me to my next idea for a holiday gathering in your bubble. A festive Miss Marple tea at any time of day. Miss Marple was always taking tea, wasn't she? Even with Joan Collins in another episode of Marple. And here's Dame Agatha herself in foreign climes, but still enjoying a very British tea time. Invitations? Even if because of COVID your tea party is only in your household, send invitations. It's so much more festive. Slip them under people's bedroom doors. And why not riff off another Marple mystery? A murder is announced. And mock up a notice in a vintage newspaper that you can either print out or send via email. There's a terrific website that mocks up newspaper articles and announcements with your own words. I'll leave a link. And best of all, it's free. And what are you going to serve at your vintage Miss Marple style festive tea party? Well, a traditional English tea, obviously, with neat little finger sandwiches, egg and crest and Shipham's paste, really retro post-war English stuff, and scones with jam, and if you can find clotted cream, Devonshire cream, why not use it? That would make it very authentic and pay homage to Agatha's childhood in Devon. Of course, mini mince pies would be perfect. And you're going to wash all of this down with lashings of tea, but come on, it's the holidays. What if you want to serve something a little bit stronger, but still in keeping with Miss Marple? It's too late in the season to make dams and gin a la Miss Marple, but I've discovered a wonderful winter warmer of a cocktail with a honey taste inspired by medieval mead. I'll leave the recipe, but for our purposes, let's rename it St. Mary Mead. Is that too cheesy, even for me? And instead of using regular cocktail stirrers, use 2 small knitting needles topped with tiny balls of festive coloured wool. How pretty is that? Alternatively, you've seen these vintage teacups turned into long-stemmed cocktail glasses. They're all over Etsy, and I think they're a fun way to play with the tea time aesthetic while drinking something stronger. Aren't these pretty? And what are you going to wear to your festive Miss Marple tea party? Well, as the recent Marple series was set exclusively in the 1950s, let's think post-war tea time. Very elegant. Take a look at this. Unique vintage, I'll leave the link, has hundreds of circle skirts and petticoats, very 1950s, and this one has quite a festive plaid. Let's team it with one of their pussy cat blouses. Add this top vintage cardigan for $35. By the way, this whole outfit will come in at under $100. A little felt beret, a mid-century style brooch which you can pick up for under $10 on eBay. Same goes for a string of artificial pearls. And look at you, you're all set to have a ladylike Christmas tea with Miss Marple herself. And for my gentlemen out there, look at this woolen vest. It looks very vintage, even though it's not. It comes from Unique Vintage. $58. Isn't that terrific? And I think both of these outfits sort of play with that 1950s British countryside aesthetic that Miss Marple absolutely rocked. And of course, that's Julia Mackenzie taking the role of Miss Marple. And I love all of the television Miss Marples, and I think that Julia Mackenzie really brought this sort of spirited and brainy and bustling sort of vibe to Miss Marple. Her Miss Marple reminds me a lot of my own English grandmother. Another cosy and wintry Miss Marple story was first published as The Murder at Hazelmoor, and then appeared under its other title, The Sitterford Mystery, which was turned into a television adaptation as part of the Marple series, again starring the fabulous Geraldine McEwen as Miss Marple with an all-star cast headed by Timothy Dalton. Invited to spend Christmas with her nephew Raymond in his cottage on Dartmoor, bad weather hits, Raymond doesn't show up, and Miss Marple has to take shelter at, yes, the big country home of a local member of Parliament played by Timothy Dalton. While the storm rages outside, everything is lovely and cozy indoors at his country estate or in the local hotel. And this is a great episode to watch while snuggled up with just family, your significant other, or simply by yourself if you're in quarantine. And I have just the meal to watch it with. For drinks, well, Dartmoor is in Devon, and Devon is famous for its cider. It's scrumpy. And what could be more warming and cozy than hot spiced cider? And for eats, a heaping, steaming bowl of Ultimate Fashion History shepherd's pie. This is my recipe, and it's really cottage pie, as it's made with beef. I always use Coleman's shepherd's pie mix, as well as tomato puree and a little sugar in the meat part of the shepherd's pie, along with onions, peas and carrots. But what makes it festive is that to the meat mixture, I also add 2 huge handfuls of dried cranberries, and to the potato on the top, I add freshly grated nutmeg. It is so lovely. Also, don't be shy on adding Worcester sauce. And I top it all off with some grated British cheddar. Oh, the aroma, it's gorgeous. Imagine curling up with a fire or candles, a blanket over your leg, a big bowl of UFH shepherd's pie, I'll leave the recipe as I say, and watching the Sitterford Mystery. What a cozy way to snuggle up over the holidays. Well, it's 2020, arguably a very strange year, and because of COVID-19, I'm guessing that there may be many of you watching this right now who will be spending Christmas totally alone, the way that Hercule Poirot always wanted to. Well, as you're only buying for one, I've pushed the boat out a little on expenses here because, well, you deserve it. We all know that Poirot is Belgian, and I know that Christmases in Belgium share many traditions with Christmases in France. So I'm basing my ideas here on the 17 years that I spent living in Paris, and oh, how I loved the holidays in France. The lights and the lobster and oyster sellers who would come up from Brittany and Normandy and sell their wares from big baskets all over the city, like on Rue Montorgueil here, which is where I did my grocery shopping as I just lived around the corner. The Christmas windows, always so charming and so festive. Oh, I loved Christmas in Paris. But Poirot was Belgian, and for a relaxing and lovely Christmas, totally by yourself, a la Poirot, precision is everything. So in the spirit of Le Grand Hercule, make Christmas Eve an elegant affair. If you're eating in front of the TV and maybe even watching Poirot, treat yourself to an elegant table setting. Start off with some pâté canapés. Brussels pâté would be very appropriate to our theme here, wouldn't it? And as you're only catering for one, and if you like it, why not have some caviar? Ooh, I know I would. Wash it all down with a glass of champagne. In France and Belgium, Christmas Eve means seafood, those lobsters and oysters up from the coast, so why not create your own mini seafood tower? Take a break and then the main event. An individual beef Wellington. I was terrified of making beef Wellington because everybody said it was hard. Maybe making a big one is, but making individual beef Wellingtons is actually really easy, and of course there's vegetarian options too. I'll leave recipes. And of course, for your Hercule Tutsul Noël, well, we all know how much he loves his chocolat. So a box of fancy chocolates that you don't have to share with anybody else is a must. And guess what? And who knew? Home Goods, Home Sense, Marshalls, those sort of stores have wonderful fancy chocolates over the holidays, and at half the price you'd pay for similar posh chocolates. I bought a tin of Maxime de Paris chocolates just last week for my husband and I to have on Christmas Eve in honour of Monsieur Poirot. On Christmas morning, how about 2 soft-boiled eggs of identical size and smoked salmon and boursin on toast? And for Christmas dinner, that poached turkey hack would really work because turkey breasts are sold in all different sizes, so you won't end up with so much turkey that it will ultimately go to waste. And throughout the day, drink Belgian hot chocolate. We all know how much Poirot loves his tasse de chocolat. I know a great recipe for dark Belgian hot chocolate. I'll leave a link to that too, and you know what? You can even spike it. Well, time for gifts. What you give your Agatha Christie obsessed friend who has already read all of the books. The Literary Tea Company has a whole range of teas inspired by the characters and the books. Redbubble.com is full of gifts created by talented folk on the theme of Agatha Christie. Lots of really fun stuff here, very reasonably priced, but my personal favourite Christie gift comes by way of a very talented young lady. Her name is Sarah Beth, and she makes these exquisite felted dolls. Here are some of her Poirots, but she also does Miss Marple and other Christie characters. She is a true artist, and I cannot imagine an Agatha Christie fan not being thrilled to receive one of Sarah Beth's creations. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that as much as I enjoyed putting it together. I turned into a regular Martha Stewart there for a second, didn't I? I'll be back probably next week with our very festive episode of What We're Into for December 2020. Until then, I wish you all the happiest of holidays, whatever you're celebrating, because you know what? We really deserve it this year, don't we? Bye for now.